Very often the conversation about leadership evolves around the idea and focuses on whether a leader is actually leading or in certain situations managing. And ever since Peter Drucker pointed out some differences years ago, we continue that conversation. And it is an important one. What I found in coaching CEOs and coaching leaders at all levels is to engage them in understanding distinct differences in when they are behaving and thinking strategically versus when they're behaving and thinking tactically. And I'm not suggesting to you that there's a right and wrong here, because in certain situations, it does require a leader to become tactical. In other situations, people yearn for and look for a leader to think and act more strategically. So some ways to understand and see the differences that I think will be helpful in determining whether you're being strategic or tactical. One is how are you engaging in a situation to solve the problem, to move it forward. When we're thinking tactically, very often what we're doing is falling into a problem-solving mode. And very often problem solving is more about containing and building a constraint into a situation. And at times, I think that serves very well. The thing is, we can get caught up in that to where we're solving a problem to the degree where it no longer provides us with an opportunity. So here, the thinking and the behavior is more towards leaning into opportunity when we're thinking strategically. In other words, we have a problem to be solved. We can solve this problem. Let's also look for the opportunities on how it is that we can move it forward beyond just the context of the immediate problem solving that we can engage in at the tactical level. So that then, of course, reminds us that when we're thinking tactically, we're very much geared towards the present. In other words, we are in the moment. We like to collect historical data, and we work a problem, we work an issue in the present context. When we're thinking strategically, we think about the possibility side of it. So again, much like thinking about what is the opportunity in solving the problem, we're also looking at it in the context of, in the present, what does solving this problem do for us? How does it help us? And of course, there's also the possibility side. And very often, when we look at it in a tactical manner, and we think about the present, we're just solving the problem, again, just for today. And so in doing that, all our energy goes into that. And it serves us very well from a strategic standpoint to think about, well, if we're solving this problem for today, what are the possibilities and how can we use what we're doing today to move it forward, and even think beyond just the immediate solution, what are some possible solutions, so to be more possibility oriented. Another way that we think about this is the difference between destructive and constructive thinking. In other words, and I don't mean destructive and knocking something down. I mean, when we see a problem, we see a challenge in front of us, when we're tactical, we have a tendency to pull it apart. Again, to investigate it by compartmentalizing it, by separating and seeing individual issues that may be at play in front of us. When we think of it in a constructive manner, we're thinking about, well, how does that all add up? And how can we come at it more creatively and innovatively? In other words, when we're more oriented towards opportunity and possibility and constructive thinking, then we're thinking naturally in more innovative and creative fashion. A good friend of mine is a mural artist, and we once had a conversation about the idea of creativity and innovation. He's a mural artist. His name is Michael Wojcik, and he's just a fantastic artist. He does all of his work in community. In other words, when he puts a mural up on the side of a building, he invites a community. So I once asked him, I said, well, don't artists really work in isolation? And doesn't creativity really stem from that? And he gave me a very, very simple and powerful definition of creativity. He said, well, if I did work on my own, first of all, I'd have to move all my own scaffolding. So he find a simpler solution than that. What he just shared with me was the simplicity that when he brings together a community of people, he's bringing together a community of minds, of ideas, that there's creativity in that. And so to think about creativity as the building of one idea upon another. No great artist, whether it's in music, in painting, or any art form, begins from ground zero. We always begin with something that's intuitive, some knowledge that we have, some experience that we have. And so destructive, we isolate, we pull apart. Constructive, what we do, and thinking strategically is what are the possibilities for innovation and creativity. And using Michael's definition, creativity is simply the building of one idea upon another. And that, of course, then leads us to a different set of behaviors as well as leaders. Because when we're thinking tactically, very often we're telling, we're directing, we're trying to solve a problem immediately, and we don't take the time to ask questions and listen. And there's a direct separation here of behavior. In tactical, we're more likely to tell, we're more likely to direct. When we're really doing the work of strategic thinking, we're asking questions. We're creating inquiry. So we're expanding the field of experience. We're expanding the field of thinking and going beyond just what's immediately in front of us. So those are some distinct differences. And then also there's one other piece. Very often when leaders find themselves in sticky situations, they have a tendency to become protective over what they have or what they've created. Strategically thinking means being expansive, not being protective, being expansive, and building on the ideas and expanding on all those ideas to create that creative possibility. So those are some ways that when in my coaching work I found have been very, very useful, because what we're really talking about is leaders understanding their own behavior and choice of behavior and how it relates to whether or not they're thinking and acting tactically versus strategically.